So I wanted to take this opportunity to, formally introduce myself, talk a little bit about what the podcast is, what I hope it will be, and just kind of make it a little bit more personal, the connection between, you guys and me. Hi guys, welcome back to the Wilson Seneca podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot. This is exciting as it is the first solo episode of the Wilson Seneca podcast, and it may be a little bit all over the place because this is my first go at it, so we'll see how we do. But yeah, I was just talking with my family the other day. I'm home for the holidays, which has been great. Just a lot about the podcast and what it's meant to me, what changes can be made to get it where I want it to be. And something that my dad mentioned was how sometimes my voice is a little bit drowned out by the guests or the way in which I conduct the podcast. So I wanted to take this opportunity to, formally introduce myself, talk a little bit about what the podcast is, what I hope it will be, and just kind of make it a little bit more personal, the connection between, you guys and me. So yeah, we'll go ahead and start there. Obviously, my name is Wilson Seneca. I guess the most important identifiers for me, I would say, are that, first of all, I am a child of God, I'm a child of the covenant, and I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ. In addition, I am a student at Brigham Young University. I am a few weeks away from turning in my application to the advertising program here at BYU, which is equally exciting and terrifying. So we'll see how that goes. I am a son. I love my family, and have loved being back with them over the holidays. I love sports. I grew up playing basketball and football, and continue to play at the lowest level of intramurals here at BYU, which is very fun. And yeah, I would say I love people. I love meaningful conversation and being able to interact with people in that way, and really get to know people. I would say that I'm definitely an introvert. I'm not someone that loves, big social events, loves parties, and things of that nature. And I think that's why I've loved the podcast so much, is because it's given me an, opportunity to meet with so many cool people and have just meaningful conversations and get to know them on a one-on-one basis, which I think is something that I really enjoy, and has been really fulfilling to me personally. And yeah, I started this podcast after meeting with one of my advertising professors. His name's Pat Doyle. I took his intro to advertising class at the beginning of this year, and I loved it. And after finishing it, I decided that, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to pursue in college, is the advertising major. And I met with him after the class had concluded, and, just seeking advice of what can I do? What can I work on? How can I be best prepared for the program? And he shared a lot of really good advice, but what really stood out to me as I was meeting with him was something that he said, which was, don't let an idea be an idea. And that was really big for me, and really helpful to me to realize that, you just need to act. You just need to start making stuff. And, this is where I decided to start, was the podcast. And I've loved it. I've loved everything that I've learned through, making these episodes every single week. I've learned so much about, the Adobe Creative Suite. I've used Premiere, I've used Illustrator, Photoshop, and I've just been able to learn so much in that realm. I've also learned, lighting and how to do sound and all this fun stuff. That's been really helpful. I've been able to meet a lot of really cool people that I otherwise wouldn't have met or had these conversations with. And I'm now able to go back and look back at the conversations that I had and, go over again and relook at all the things that I learned in those conversations. And in that way, it's been really cool. Um, and yeah, so I've just loved, this process of just doing something, even though it's not, the highest quality or, the greatest podcast that's ever been made, but it's been mine, and it's been something that I've worked hard towards, and it's opened a lot of doors for me. And I've been really grateful for the lessons learned the past couple months, in 2023, as I've made an effort to make this podcast. And I'm really excited for 2024 and all that it will bring, and the people that I'll meet, the conversations that I'll have, the lessons that will be learned. And I'm just so grateful for everyone listening and everyone tuning in, and the support that I've felt as I've tried to make this thing happen. I started this podcast thinking it would be an advertising podcast, because that's what I want to do in my profession and in school. So initially I had a lot of, ad lab students on, and advertising professors, and, people in that world. And I think I still will, just because I love talking about that stuff. But I decided that I wanted to not make it so niche. So kind of what I was thinking with the podcast is to just really focus on people in the BYU and Provo community. I feel like, I want to have a positive impact on people in the world in general, but I feel like a really powerful place to start is your community. And I've really made an effort to try to be more up to date with the things going on in the community, and I want to be more involved with events going on in the community, and, important things going on, and interacting with people, not only in BYU, but in Provo as a whole. And that's kind of my goal, is to just kind of have conversations with people, give them a platform to, share their story, their perspective on things. And, I'm hoping to do more athletes at BYU, but also, I think it'd be cool to do high school athletes. I remember, I forget the name, but there was this group of guys that would talk about high school sports, and, they'd bring up names of kids on our teams, and it'd be the coolest thing ever to be talked about, and to feel seen. So yeah, I think it'd be cool to do athletes, professors, people with local businesses. I think something that's really sick is Velour, for those that are familiar. They do the Battle of the Bands all the time, and I think, interviewing people that are performing, or are kind of smaller in the music industry but wanting to get bigger, would be really cool. So if you're listening and you feel like you're someone that has a story to be told, or is working on something really cool, or kind of fit that criteria within the Provo BYU community in general, I feel like, or I would love for you to reach out, and have a conversation, see what we can do. But yeah, that's kind of the overall goal right now for the podcast. I'll be in Provo for at least the next 2 years, just getting school done, and I'd really hope and want to interact with and become as immersed in, the Provo BYU world as much as possible, and just get to know people and be involved and help people to feel seen, feel loved, and give them a platform to share their story and what they hold important and want to share with the world. And I feel like that kind of, in a nutshell, is who I am. It's kind of my goal with the podcast. It's, something that I don't intend on, stopping. Right? The end goal or hope with the podcast is that it gets to a point where this can become, my main profession. I think that'd be the coolest thing ever, is to just be a podcaster. But, for now, I see the next 2 years as an opportunity to really just go all in with this podcast, and make an effort to be as immersed in the Provo and BYU community as possible, get to know people, participate in events in the community, and like I mentioned before, just give people that platform, that opportunity to share their story, to share their thoughts on things, and the good things going on in the community. Another thing that has helped me to desire to start this podcast and kind of base it specifically around BYU and Provo is I feel like, BYU, Provo, the church are all synonymous in a way, and there definitely is content online. And I feel like the majority of the content I see about it online is, generally negative towards people in the church, towards, BYU. And, I don't want to hide the things that, or not cover or talk about the things that need to be improved in BYU or Provo or the church or whatever it is, but just to, talk about it in the right setting, I feel like, and also highlight the good things going on and just kind of give people that aren't familiar with the church or BYU or whatever it is an opportunity to see and hear, who we are, what we represent, what we hold important. So I'd say that this podcast is equally for those within the BYU and Provo community as it is for those wanting to understand kind of that world. So yeah, this solo podcast is so funny because I just feel like I'm yapping. I'm just saying stuff. And I guess I'll probably go in and edit it a little bit and make it so it doesn't sound so long and boring. But yeah, I don't know. It's exciting. I've learned so much in 2023, and I feel like with every new year, there's just an overall feeling of excitement, of opportunity, of optimism, and that's kind of how I feel in life in general, but also specifically with this podcast. I'm really excited to see where things will go this next year. I've put a lot of effort into it these past couple months, and I've seen, growth. 20 followers isn't anything crazy, but it's really meaningful to me. And to have a couple videos get, over 1,000 views on my Instagram, and it's little things to others, but to me it's been really meaningful. I've loved everything about this podcast. I've loved the people I've been able to meet. I've loved the lessons that I've been able to learn, the experiences that I've been able to have, and the little growth that I've seen has been really rewarding. So I'm excited for this next year, and if this is something that you are equally or in some way, shape, or form excited about, I hope that you'll like, comment, subscribe. You'll follow me on Spotify and be along for this journey. I'm excited to see where this podcast goes and the stories that will be told, and hope that you'll join me in that journey. There's a quote that I really love, and I don't remember who said it, but it's something along the lines of seek to understand before being understood. And that quote has come to mean a lot in my life. Just to really make an effort to learn from other people, to try to understand them, to have more empathy. I think a lot of times in life, we get very caught up in our own lives and our own challenges and our perspective on things. And I feel like that is a very human thing to do, but it can also be very damaging to yourself and your relationships. But as I've made an effort to try to be more empathetic and to understand others, I've felt that I've been able to grow deeper connections and more meaningful relationships with others. And that's been kind of one of the goals on the podcast is, just listen to people. And that's one of the reasons why I don't talk too much on the podcast, which maybe I will more, maybe I won't. I haven't really made a decision yet, but I just want to hear people's stories, and I want people to feel listened to. We were talking about in church in second hour the other day about people's needs, and something that the teacher gave the person giving the lesson during that hour was, people more than anything, first of all, want to be seen and understood, and then loved. Like, I think that's why, you know, our relationship with Jesus Christ is so meaningful, is because he knows exactly who we are, good and bad included. And regardless of the bad, the mistakes, the sins that we make, he loves us for who we are. And I feel like we all are looking for that in all of our relationships, not only ours with Jesus Christ, and especially the most important ones, that, people, the longer you spend time with them, the longer you interact with them and converse with them, the more comfortable they feel to open up and share those things that maybe they're not super proud of, that they kind of keep tucked away and don't share too often. And I've really made an effort, and obviously I'm not perfect, but just tried to really listen to people, to understand them, and to love them regardless of the mistakes that they've made, the ways that they have treated me that have not felt, great. Something that I've really learned this year is that you can't ever judge anyone just judge anyone in general. There's people, and they get put through such difficult trials in their lives. And a lot of times people react in a way that they wouldn't hope to react. They get put through hard things, and they do things that they're not proud of. And I don't know, I feel like it's our responsibility and duty to just love people and to be forgiving and to allow them to change and to repent and to become better. And it's not up to us to judge people based on how they have acted, especially during very trying times in their lives. And there's always things that we just won't understand about people and their struggles. I don't even completely understand myself and my personal struggles. And that's been something I've really felt that ingrained into me this year, is that, I need to do a better job at just listening to people, at loving them regardless of the mistakes that they've made, the ways that they treated me, and to help them feel heard, seen, and loved, regardless of those missteps that they made in their life. And that's kind of one of the goals with this podcast, is to not only give people a platform to share the good and the bad going on in the community, but to be able to just have a meaningful conversation, to feel listened to feel loved. And I hope that goal is being met with the people being interviewed, and that it's felt by the people watching the interviews, and that you watching and listening are able to, get good, cool, important information out of these episodes. I'm trying to think, what else would I want to add before I end. I don't want this episode to be overly long. I just want it to be short and sweet, and to kind of let you guys get to know me, get to know the podcast, kind of share some of my thoughts on the year of 2024, 2023, some of my hopes for 2024. But overall, I think that's kind of the bulk of the things that I wanted to talk about. But I guess what I'd want to say just to close is that, this podcast, it's great for me. It's taught me a lot. It's provided a lot for me, and I'm excited for what it will bring in 2024, but also that I want to be as engaged in, this community, the podcast community, those who are following, subscribing, listening, commenting. I want to make sure that I'm creating the content that you want. So I hope that, you'll comment, you'll share your thoughts, you'll share who you want to be on the podcast. If you're someone that wants to be on it, you'll reach out. And that we'll collectively be able to, make something that is beneficial to the community overall. So thank you so much for listening, for those that have made it this far on the podcast. And if this is a journey that you would like to follow and be a part of, I ask you to, subscribe here, and to follow on Spotify, and, whatever platform you're listening on. But thank you so much. I'm really excited for this year. I'm excited to see what people will have on, what lessons will be learned, and what conversations will be had. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in.